Hi everyone, it's Beth, and today is January 3rd of 2019, which means that it is the 10th anniversary of the Bitcoin Genesis block. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Genesis block, and then I'm going to announce a Bitcoin giveaway. So if you want to know how to win some free Bitcoin from me, then please go ahead and watch until the end of the video. Also, if you are new to the channel or you just haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And please, if you enjoy the video, do make sure that you leave a like. Okay, now let's go ahead and get right into this. Okay, so over here on Cointelegraph, which is of course one of very many articles that were written today about the Genesis block anniversary, the 10th anniversary. But this one I think does a nice job talking about some of the things that are most interesting about the Genesis block. So of course the Genesis block happened on January 3rd of 2009. That is after the, let's see if I can find it. Did I put that? Nope, there. So January 3rd, 2009, this is historyofbitcoin.org. But this is the Genesis block is mined. And just, to step back a little bit, bitcoin.org was registered in September of 2008. The white paper was published in in October of 2008. And also in August, there was a patent application about Bitcoin. It was filed by 3 different people who have all denied being Satoshi Nakamoto. This is a very interesting site that has a lot of cool things that have happened in Bitcoin, like the first transaction. So the very first transaction, the Genesis block, that happened on January 3rd. But then on January 9th, there's the first, the first version of Bitcoin Core came out, version 0.1. And then on January 12th, there was the first Bitcoin transaction where I guess Satoshi sent some Bitcoin over to Hal Finney, who was a developer and cryptographic activist for a long time. So there's some really interesting speculation about Hal Finney and whether or not he might be Satoshi, but he's definitely one of the people who are, bandied about as a possibility. But in any case, so this is the Genesis block happened 10 years ago today. And over here, and in the Genesis block, there was this. So this is the Times 03 Jan 2009.com. And it talks about the Genesis block newspaper, because embedded in the Genesis block was this headline. So they have, and this was from the Times, which is a mainstream UK newspaper, and that was published on January 3rd of 2009 also. So in the Genesis block, we can see that this is the raw block data. And right here, it says the Times, 3 January 2009, Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. So if we had any question as to why Satoshi created Bitcoin, I think that this information being embedded here in the Genesis block really says volumes. So for today, the BitMEX went ahead and posted in the Times again, and it says, "Thanks Satoshi, we owe you one. Happy 10th birthday, Bitcoin." And then there's another hash that is in there and says, "Thanks Satoshi" in there. So I think that is very, very interesting, but also very interesting about these two front pages is they both talk about just crushing debt and how do you deal with this crushing debt? And I think there are countries all around the world that are dealing with how do you deal with crushing debt, because that's just the reality, I think, of the situation for most countries in the world right now. So there we go. I mean, that's really, it's coming right full circle to, I mean, right down to the headlines on the papers. But there is, so we talked, yep, so there we talked about that. There's also in the, so in this transaction, there's also 50 Bitcoin mining reward, and it can't be spent. And people have wondered why that is, why Satoshi chose to do it that way, whether it was an accident or if it was intentional. And there's an interesting, it's old, but there's a Reddit post about the first 50 BTC block reward can't be spent and why. So the answer here that someone gave, and I don't know if this is accurate, but it sounds like this person knows what they are talking about, is that the client, when Bitcoin first came out, the client maintained a block database and transaction database. And when it finds that the block database is empty, it inserts the Genesis block into the block database to get things started. The block includes a transaction sending 50 BTC to that wallet address, but the client does not insert the transaction into its transaction database. So even though this transaction is part of the blockchain, if the client sees the transaction spending the 50 BTC, it won't be able to find it on the transaction database, so it's unspendable. And they, of course, the developers at Bitcoin know that that is the case, but they're just leaving it as unspendable. Actually, in later iterations, they have changed the way that they handle block transaction databases, and so the transaction is that it's now the Genesis block transaction with that 50 locked up BTC is now just a weird special case in the code. Also, there are, because this is a public wallet address, or pseudo anonymous, like every Bitcoin wallet address, there you can go and look at what has happened on the ledger with that wallet, and there have been I think it's like 1,400 transactions where people have sent Bitcoin into this wallet. So I think that that's just a couple interesting things here about the Genesis block, but mostly I think that it really comes down to just the comparison between then and now, because it was crushing debt in late 2008 and 2009, really all across the world. And, we are possibly looking at maybe possibly a recession coming if things don't turn around from their trajectory in, regular traditional markets. So that is, here is Tom Lee talking about the Dow Jones and greater stock market having a midlife crisis. And basically, Tom Lee has to say in this article, which is on CCN, that it was ridiculous for the Fed to raise rates in December, and that this is kind of just the beginning, because this has been that particular action had more impact, he thinks, on the trade wars or the tariffs, and that this is really, and that the conflict between President Trump and the Fed is, certainly not great for market confidence. So we shall see how things progress here with, the stock market and more traditional markets that way. On the other side, the stock market is doing really terribly this year, and it was the worst December, I think, since in 90 years, almost 90 years. So it's just not sweet right now. And but we gotta see that the bright side is that there has been some bullish momentum building for precious metals. So that is great. So if you are, if you're trying to figure out how to hedge against a potential downturn in traditional markets, there are other options out there, like cryptocurrency, as Satoshi intended, and precious metals are, I think, a really great opportunity also. So that's what I had to talk about today. And so let's go ahead and announce a giveaway. Okay, so I'm going to give away some Bitcoin. I'm going to give away, let's do, I don't know how much Bitcoin yet, but I'm going to give away some Bitcoin. So if you want to win some Bitcoin, then please subscribe to the channel. You're going to have to subscribe to the channel and like the video and leave me a lovely, nice comment in the comment section, including your Bitcoin receive address. So that is going to do it for me today. And again, if you did like the video, please leave a like. If you'd like to see more from me, subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions or comments, leave those in the comment section with your receive address, BTC receive address, if you want to win some free Bitcoin. And as always, I would like to thank you very much for your time today, and I will see you next time.